want it on my black. Let's have a nice hand for Ozzy Osbourne.
Something gets in my head, it'll come out my mouth, you know.
So you listen to a lot of Justin Bieber? Is that, are we gonna, Justin Bieber?
Who the Justin Bieber?
Oh, Guy, Gus, Jim, Bill, whatever your name is. Your name's going to be dead if you touch this chicken. Don't go near my chicken. You understand? And don't even go there.
Very hard to speak without saying a few profanities.
He's done very well.
You know, you've done very well, Ozzy, and thank you, thank you.
What do you mean? It's great.
Oh, all right. Thank you. There we go.
Ozzy.
Thank you, Ozzy. Thank you, Sharon.
Ozzy Osbourne, an otherwise quiet lad from Birmingham, caused a panic in Detroit recently when he sank his teeth into a bat during his stage act. Mr. Osbourne says it was all a terrible misunderstanding.
All I did was get out there and make a mistake of biting a head off a bat. And I tell you what, guys, it ain't fun when you get them rabies shots. My wife bit me this morning. I'm so...
Are you calling your wife a bad Ozzy?
No, she's beautiful. My wife is the best.
Sharon! Sharon!
Stop it, Ozzy. You know, I think I'm going to put this plastic pack on my head. Go on.
Well, what do you do to relax?
It's not marijuana.
You were joking when you said that, of course.
Yeah, right.
Drugs, they were okay at the time, but we outgrew them, you know. We just, you know, we took LSD, we took cocaine, we took vast amounts of marijuana. It was fun at the time, but then we all just sort of thought this ain't a very good idea anymore.
So you have a more stable life now?
No.
I'm clean for once. Isn't that nice?
Have you guys,
If you have any drugs or any alcohol, give me some.
Who remembers? Okay, guys.
Ozzy, I know it's working because I'm even feeling it, man.
You want to rinse out?
Are you sober now?
No, now, yeah. I'm never, but I have moments I'll turn it.
A beautiful sight, we're happy tonight. Walking in a winter wonderland.
There's a good reason why you shouldn't take drugs now.
Yeah. I think like you were singing a completely different track there.
I think I was.
This will make you feel good,
You're
Ozzy.
going to be really bright now. Come on.
Actually,
Yeah.
what a load of bollocks.
I hate Jack.
Oh, don't be stupid. What the f am I doing? I'm stuck on the weather channel. Ah! What's that?
That's right. Oh, come on, Sharon. I'm f***ing Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness. Evil, fuck evil. I've had a bottle of bubble. Who pissed on my carpet? That bastard dog, man. I'm gonna throw it in the book. Terrorist. It's Carpet Lions, gang. I love you all. I love you more than life itself. You're all mad. What's happened to you? Where'd you get this thing? Jack! Siri, what was the name of the chimpanzee they sent into space?
Okay, I found this on the web for what was the name of the chimpanzee they sent it to space.
What the Wikipedia. Ham. What a ham. That was just probably packed lunch. There he is, a picture of Ham, look. There he is, old boy. He was on an ego trip when he come back. He met the president. Now look at that astronaut. He looks like an astronaut, doesn't he? Right. Last year we had a rather bad accident when we did this. I hope one of them doesn't puke over me again this year. Keep on going, folks. Oh my God.
what's your favorite music? Your dad's music?
Yeah, the dad's music's the best.
Okay. And what? Is it cool? What about after Daddy? Who do you like to listen to?
I like to listen to Madonna, things like that.
All right.
Madonna.
Would you?
I might be the biggest lunatic that you've ever met in your life, guys. But I'm here for you guys. I'm here for people. I'm here for enjoyment. I'm here for giving people my life, my soul, my everything.
I just want to tell you, because I may never see you again, that you are my favorite musician in the world.
Give me a hug.
Rest easy to a legend. Oh man, I can't even tell you how much impact that Ozzy and Sabbath and oh man, how that had on my life. And I mean, every time that I painted my nails black, I knew that it was okay because Ozzy did it. So I thought it'd be kind of fun because I started off as playing classic rock and metal and stuff, especially Sabbath and Zeppelin, AC/DC, and all that. And then eventually, you know, regular Ozzy covers and stuff. So I thought it would be fun just for a second, since you're on ViperTV and this is my channel and I do what the hell it is that I like to do. In the spirit of Ozzy, I'm going to do just that. So I'm going to dick around on the guitar just a little bit. Welcome. How's it going out there? Good to see everybody. Thanks for hanging out. I needed to get that out of my system. How's it going out there? Good to see everybody. Today is just a little bit of a different kind of format than what normally happens, because it's been a day, you know, watching all the tributes pour in from people like Tony Iommi and people like Geezer Butler, and you know, I mean, the entire Iron Maiden crew, just all of the you know, all the metal greats that really made us the music that enhanced our lives so much. I mean, some of my oldest memories I can remember actually involve Ozzy. This is kind of a funny story. So, like, I remember when I was, it was my first day in kindergarten, actually. And you see, in the family that I grew up with, my brother listened to Ozzy a lot because he was kind of in that generation that was, you know, everything was kind of geared towards, as far as like Metallica and Ozzy and Maiden and all that. So I'd be in the back of his car as we'd be driving around, and he'd be listening to Ozzy, and I'd be reading the lyrics and stuff and trying to understand, you know, at a very young age, exactly what was being said, how it was being said, just kind of understanding music in general. Because the only music I ever really knew was the stuff that like my father and mother and stuff were listening to, and it was all just radio music or golden oldies. But the thing about Ozzy is, this is a really funny story. I'll never forget this. It was my first day at kindergarten, of all places. And I remember walking up to, I don't want to name names because, you know, the internet's forever, to two people in my class. And they were talking about Michael Jordan, and they were talking about sports and stuff. And I was like, an extremely, and still kind of am, socially awkward person. So I didn't know, you know, I had the right way to make conversation, just walk up. So I thought the best thing to do was just walk up and ask them, hey, do you guys like Ozzy? And to which they gave me an extremely strange look, because more than likely their parents didn't listen to Ozzy. And after they gave me that strange look, I just began singing Killer of Giants, just out of nowhere. And they gave me, this was in kindergarten, mind you, and the look that they gave me informed me that life was going to be very long. So that was one of my first experiences. And the cool thing about Ozzy was, like, he was insecure and weird, and he grew up poor, and he's also an abuse survivor too. So there is so much that I found that not only myself, but also so many people, I'm sure, they just found something in common with Ozzy, because he's a delightful fuck up. Like, he came from an extremely poor background, worked in a slaughterhouse even. The day that he decided to quit was like, I think it's, I can't remember exactly how the story went, but all I know is he ended up and ate an entire vat of blood and guts, and it was either through a prank or an accident. I can't remember what it was, but that was before, you know, he decided to try burglary and ended up going to jail, and that's when he tattooed Ozzy and the smiley faces on his knees so that he'd look down and always have something to smile at. He's just such a delightful misfit of a fuck up, and he owned it, and that was the thing. Now, you know, there's a lot of people that have a lot to say, because, you know, the whole with Bob Daisley and Sharon and all that kind of thing with all the ins and outs of the record business the way it is. But, you know, the big business is the big business. The thing is about Ozzy knew he was weird, and even when there was, you know, an entire crowd out there just waiting for him to show up, you know, you'd read reports of him being like, do you think they're gonna like me tonight? Like, his insecurity never left him, and unfortunately I think that was one of the reasons that you know, he found himself in the throes of overindulgence. But he showed me that it's okay to be weird. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to like weird, creepy stuff. You know, Black Sabbath, they made sounds that nobody was used to hearing. I mean, like, to open your album, like, I mean, not your album, but your song with that, or like the way they opened Black Sabbath, like with thunder and rain and stuff, absolutely crazy. And what they gave us, I mean, I think there's a quote that says, you can't touch a guitar or a pair of drumsticks unless you're playing like jazz or country and not know that what you're playing was influenced by something that Ozzy had something to do with. So it's really that important. And the really funny thing was, you know, because their name was Black Sabbath and whatnot, so they ended up getting the whole, like, oh, they're evil and satanic thing. And one of my favorite Black Sabbath stories was, I guess they were on tour in America, and they were staying in a hotel, and apparently some fans found out where they were, and they wanted they wanted Black Sabbath to lead them in a satanic ritual. So they showed up outside the hotel doors, all like in black robes and with candles, expecting Black Sabbath to lead them in some sort of evil satanic mass. And they just opened up the doors and blew out the candles and sang happy birthday. That's like probably one of my favorite Sabbath stories, aside from the one I talked about with the pranking that happened in the castle. But that was just because, like, that was after Ozzy left, because Black Sabbath technically was Tony Iommi's band. So, you know, they went through a lot of lineup changes and stuff. And I mean, Ozzy brought so many amazing guitar players to the world. I mean, obviously we have Randy Rhoads. Like, Randy Rhoads, his influence is going to be felt inside of guitar playing forever, because even if you end up finding somebody who's a completely modern metal musician who's your influence, those ideas that they were playing, that some of them came from Randy. It's just the way it is. I also love Jakey Lee's, like on the Ultimate Sin record. Dude, the Ultimate Sin record is amazing. And like Jakey Lee, you get to tell like he's playing within like an inch of his life. Because he knew he had such gigantic shoes to fill. And the thing about Randy Rhoads is, like, they didn't have television, and they didn't really have a whole lot of different music except for classical music growing up, but his mom was a music teacher, so he learned music theory. So that's why he was able to apply classical guitar playing so much to metal music, and gave us that kind of neoclassical sound that Yngwie ended up, you know, kind of going further with. Like, just like cool things he would do, like, you know, You can take like a regular, like a D minor chord like this, like, but he would like do shit like just these different little ornamentations off of regular chords that you wouldn't think to do, but because he had these neoclassical sounds already in his head, that it made sense for him to do that. But like, you know, but also he had no problem like ripping like fast ass blues licks, you know, like just like shit like that, like and then obviously Ozzy ended up working with Jakey Lee, who there's not a lot of signature stuff that I can think of that I can pull off of his, because all of it was just so unique. Like really look into his guitar playing, and then obviously there was Zakk Wylde, you know, I mean, everything's like everything Zakk Wylde is, you got to have those pinch harmonics in there. It's really important. So actually, I wanted to actually take this time to, because I see there's some really great people in the crowd. There's like, what are some of your oldest memories that you can relate to Ozzy? And, you know, I mean, there's even lyrics and stuff that, you know, still to this day, they hit. Like he says, you got to believe in foolish miracles. I can't think of how many times the chips were down. And, you know, I would think about people like, you know, like Ozzy, you know, he penned songs like Secret Loser. Look at the lyrics to Secret Loser and be like, yeah, I can completely relate. Especially, you know, I mean, if you weren't the most popular kid in school, or, you know, you didn't come from money, or you weren't the most beautiful, you know, like Ozzy was there. He was like, you know, it's okay to be weird. And that's really rad to me. I just think of the Bubbles and how he says I'm the Prince of Darkness, and it's funny because like obviously that was something that Sharon did, and I mean I see why Ozzy would do that, because could you imagine Lemmy? Could you imagine like somebody who was setting up Lemmy's showroom and was like, yeah, we got Bubbles. And he's like, what? This is a rock and roll show and you have Bubbles? So, yeah, I can completely get that one. When he's pouring the orange juice, that one, that's just, it doesn't get much better, especially because it's like, so are you sober and living better now? He's like, no. When I was in LA and I went, you know, to the Rainbow and got to stand in the footsteps of places like, you know, like just standing where all these rock icons just made history without trying. They were just literally just living to live, and ended up making this subsect of American culture that influenced so much, and it brought comfort to so many people. And yeah, I think that we all knew Ozzy was going to pass. It was going to happen. I mean, he was that age, and he was, you know, we knew he had Parkinson's, and we saw it coming. But there's just something about when an icon passes that we're reminded just how much they influenced our life in so many different ways that you don't think about until they're gone, really. And you know, it's when I actually, you know, look at my musical career, when I realize that how much influence not only Black Sabbath, but, you know, Ozzy and Randy Rhoads actually did have on my playing. And I think missing Ozzy is one of the few bipartisan things that are happening in America right now, because the only people that are saying anything bad are the people who said horrible things about him in the 80s. So it's not like there's really, any loss. It's almost like the satanic panic never ended. It just kind of like evolved in the same way that morality sort of evolves with people. Like the same music that they said would send us to hell is now being used for like bumper music for Ford F-150s. And on the reality show, when he couldn't remember the names of the pets because he had too many. Yeah. I mean, Ozzy was a flawed individual. I have no problem saying it. There was the same with Johnny Cash. When they were under drug-induced psychosis, they both did some really, really crazy things that I think only can happen with that combination of extreme celebrity and the ability to not only get your hands on anything you want, but also to be encouraged, because you're easy to be controlled by the record company when you're lit out of your mind all the time. Then there's record companies that are like, you can't be lit out of your mind all the time. And that was the amazing balance with Ozzy, was he knew that he needed to get sober. And he always had to, sort of like fight that, like, because he knew that as part of what he did in the world of rock and roll, just partying was just part of it. So, he'd have, people on tour like sneak him a beer in the bathroom and stuff like that, just because, it was so important that he tried to be a better person for Sharon. And, Sharon saved his life. As somebody who has gone through the same kind of withdrawals with pills that Ozzy did, because of injuries that I have, I completely understand. And just the fact that he was, able to survive that, he's able to survive all the other stuff that he did. He was able to survive having the three-wheeler flip on him. And then, after that, he got back surgery. And, because people have told me that I should get back surgery and stuff. And actually, Ozzy's one of the reasons I quote why I never would. He literally said, don't ever do it. It's horrible. And it's been kind of a unusual format to our show today than it usually is. But I'd say that is true. He did die once. Nikki Sixx died once. It's a thing with the 80s rockers. Partying was it was the thing to do. And I don't mean just party. I mean like partying. Like, if you've seen The Dirt, you know what I mean. Like, Hold on a second. When him and Nikki Sixx had that like kind of gross out contest, like that actually happened. Ozzy did snort ants. He was just that kind of guy. Yeah. The thing is like, there's just so many ways that you can think about, like Ozzy being there, like him and Lita Ford, Close My Eyes Forever, that breakup ballad. Whew, that was there for me. Iron Man was there for me to get me pumped up on mornings where it was like 4:30 a.m. and I had to go work in the Navy, and I had this was no joke. I would literally wake up. Okay, here this would be like an actual thing. I'd wake up at 4:30 a.m. and then do my 12-hour shift in the Navy, and then I would go to hair school for a while. And then after I was done with hair school, I'd drive to Richmond, because I was in Norfolk, Virginia Beach area. I'd drive to Richmond and play a gig, which was at nighttime, finish, pack up, drive back from Richmond to Norfolk, drive another 12 hours, get done with that. Work another 12 hours, get done with that 12 hours, do another bout of school, and then finally sleep. I did that a few times. And Sabbath was the thing that always pushed me through. Like when I would be like, oh my God, I cannot do this. You know, I'd hear that. And like, okay, I can do this. And of course, obviously, Sweet Leaf. Me being a fan of cannabis culture, but also like there's just something about being a young and budding guitar player and being able to just go like for hours and just feel like a rock god. That was the cool thing about Sabbath, was they made guitar feel accessible if you were first starting. Like the thing, like, you know, if you think about like with Crazy Train and stuff, you have this kind of chugging like which is actually kind of funny, because if I was to take the gain down and do this and then do this, is the same chords as Umbop by Hanson with a. Isn't that amazing? But like being oh yeah, and I've always said that, you know, from Children of the Grave, when the slow part comes though, like though I can't, it's been so long since I actually like played that I can't even like play that part. I mean, I can still do that. But all the other stuff I'd actually have to practice to remember. I'm gonna have to do like a Sabbath tribute set and learn all this stuff again. But you know, it really made it so you're like, you learn that, because Tony Iommi, you know, I mean, he had to use his pinky to make power chords because, you know, that finger had been damaged, which is actually one of the reasons we actually have heavy metal, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But with just this tiny little shape right here, the power chord, like the entire world was opened up to me. And I went from being a shy, weird, autistic kid in Ohio to all of a sudden like being like feeling 10 foot tall and bulletproof every time I put this thing on, just because I could go. And it was like tapping into some kind of like primal magic. And then, you know, with Tony Iommi and his use of the blues scale, it showed me that there was just infinite possibilities to do with one scale. And a lot of it really had to do with learning Sabbath tunes. Meant I could get better at the instrument, while at the same time I didn't have to be around anybody. And being a fairly introverted person at the time, you know, it was pretty cool, because I could do what it is that I like to do and get better at it. And being able to play along with Sabbath records, it felt like I was genuinely accomplishing something. And then when I was playing in bands and doing Sabbath covers, then it was like, oh, whoa, but I was actually playing bass. Geezer Butler was just such a huge influence on my bass playing. Yeah, it's been weird thinking about just how much influence that Ozzy had on my life. That the guitar playing that came from that ended up being the fundamentals of everything that I ended up playing afterwards, because there wasn't anything that didn't involve a power chord. I mean, all the music that I wrote involved just that power chord shape, and literally that was just the kind of stuff that I played until I eventually learned about Danny Gatton and rockabilly and swing and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, 80s rockers were built different. I think it was just a lot of them came from nowhere towns, and they'd been given the keys to a candy shop. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, okay, well, here's a place where it's warm all the time. There's an ocean. You'll be celebrated by playing loud. And also, there's certainly no shortage of substances around. So it was certainly self-perpetuating. Hey, chat, what's your favorite Ozzy or Sabbath record? Master of Reality probably is my favorite Sabbath record. Not only because Children of the Grave is amazing, and so is Sweet Leaf and After Forever, which is funny because After Forever is, if you look at the lyrics, it literally is a Christian song. It is it's the song that you could probably show your parents if they thought Black Sabbath was satanic, if they'd actually take 2 seconds to listen to it. I mean, aside from, would you like to see the Pope on the end of the rope? Do you think he's a fool? I mean, aside from that, actually, speaking of that, have you ever listened to the lyrics to War Pigs before it was War Pigs? Like when it was talking about casting priests into the fire, like when it was not quite ready for prime time. And War Pigs still applies to this day. You know, I mean, every time that I see the poor sent out to fight wars for the rich that they would never fight instantly, you know, like I just hear the lines, politicians hide themselves away, they only started the war. Why should they go out to the fight? They leave that to the poor. I believe it's that role to the poor. And, you know, I mean, when they would play War Pigs, there'd be like Vietnam veterans in wheelchairs, you know, fucking sitting there. Because, you know, they'd also sing songs about getting hooked on smack after coming back from Vietnam. Sabbath, actually, they understood reality, because there was an interview with Ozzy, and he said, in the town that I come from, which reminded me a lot of the town that I came from, because it's just an shitty little industrial town, but we had the Shawshank Redemption prison. deep joy. But he said that he'd hear songs that said that, to see you in San Francisco, be sure to wear flowers in your hair. And he thought to himself, it's just such a load of bullshit, because the only flowers you got in my town were on your grave after working in the same fucking factory for 40 years. Like at one time, Ozzy worked in a car horn factory. That's another thing I had in common with him, is he always worked in factories in his shitty town. I worked in so many different factories, making so many different things. Sometime I'll have to do like just a series called like Skip's Factory Stories. But, you know, he said that he worked in a car horn factory where what they did was they would tune the car horns. They'd come down the line honking, and he'd tune them so it was exactly the pitch that they wanted, then send them down. And all day long is just blaring of car horns. And he remembers talking to the guy who was on the line, who barely couldn't hear a damn thing at all. And he's like, how long have you been here? And he's like, yeah, I've been here like, was it 30 or 40 years? And when he retired, he got like a watch. That's it. Like a wasted life, hearing damage, and a watch. And, you know, he decided that just wasn't for him, and he needed to, I guess he apparently needed to try out petty crime. I never tried out petty crime. I have to say that, though. I do have disorderly conduct from playing music too loud, so that's definitely on my record. Yeah, The Ultimate Sin, yeah, it's such a good record. I mean, starting with the title track, ending with Shot in the Dark, everything in between, like I already mentioned, Secret Loser. The guitar solo in Secret Loser is so good on its own. Obviously, Killer of Giants is about, you know, avoiding nuclear war, which is funny because it's like, I feel like there's parts that feel like we're living in the 80s again. We're trying to avoid Soviet nukes. The Heritage Foundation has control of government. The Satanic Panic is back. And it just seems like we can't get over that little hill where there's always going to be this extreme sect of religious people who are going to make anything fun suck. I don't know what it is, but I mean, they dealt with it. But like I said, you know, everything that they said in the 80s that was going to send you to hell is now bumper music for selling, you know, like I said, Ford F-150s and anything else of that. So yeah, there's not a lot of credence I hold in that. Like another cool thing that, like, you know, I learned was, like, you know, like that right there. It's a tritone. It's made up of the one, and the flat 5, as opposed to a regular 5 that would make your power chord. See, here's your 1, here's your 1, here's your 1, and your 5 makes a power chord. But if you flatten that, but already right there sounds evil as fuck. It's fucking wicked. And then you add that extra octave to it. And then we can even add this extra octave to it, make it sound even more evil. And if you played that on like an organ in the medieval days, they would actually set you on fire. And then I learned that was actually based off of Holst's Mars from the planets. If you never listened to Holst's Planet series, you're doing yourself a serious injustice, because if you have an imagination, you can imagine the planet itself, or you can imagine the Roman version, be it Mars or Venus And then if you listen to the end of the song Black Sabbath, it's a da 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 da, and that's totally just like the end of Mars by Holst. And Bill Ward, the drummer, actually, it's funny enough because he actually won an award for being Britain's most untidy drummer. Apparently, he just never did his laundry and he always smelled bad. But he was badass, and that was the thing about Bill Ward. But he said that he drummed like it was symphony drumming, like he was conducting a symphony. And if you really listen to those early Sabbath records, it's not typical rock and roll drumming. The closest thing you get to typical rock and roll drumming is on Paranoid. You know, it's just got that. But like that right there, like even that little syncopation, it's not like typical rock drumming. But, you know, I mean, listen to Black Sabbath. I mean, it literally sounds like the song Black Sabbath, not just that band. But the timpanis literally sound like an orchestra. It's man, Ozzy, I could talk about all the things you did for us for I don't even know how long. But like, looking back on that early memory of being in kindergarten and thinking that I'd be able to just talk about Ozzy to interact with other kids regularly. Every time that I look at it, I think about it and I kind of laugh. Because, like I said, it informed me that life was going to be very long because I always was into stuff that, you know, the other kids weren't. They'd be listening to, like, New Kids on the block, on the bus, on the way to field trips, and I'd be listening to the Misfits. I feel like not really like a piece of rock and roll has died. I think that a piece of rock and roll has become that much more iconic and legendary. Because think about it now. How many kids are going to look into who is this Ozzy guy and how much their life is going to change? They might even pick one of these up. They might even, you know, start a band and get into some trouble. I think that what Ozzy represented and what he did for not just music in general, but just did for musicians who thought that they couldn't do anything because they were weird, or people who thought they couldn't do anything that they were weird. He was the one who's like, no, it's okay to be weird. Like, I got this shit, and I want to let you know that it's okay to be weird. And I found that extremely comforting. And, you know, maybe we're going to have a whole crop of new up-and-coming amazing guitar players who understand that what it was that Sabbath and Ozzy's solo stuff stood for. And it was making music for people who didn't have music that needed this kind of music. And if you understand what I'm saying, then there's a good chance you can probably relate to what I'm saying. If you don't understand what I'm saying, then congratulations on your parents still being together. I'm gonna rip a little jam and then get out of here.
what happened with Black Sabbath, we all ended up junkies and alcoholics and everything. Like the drummer ended up in a rehabilitation centre. I did for a while. And then in the end, disaster happens. It's inevitable to happen, disaster. It's like drugs. They were okay at the time, but they outgrew them, you know. You took LSD, you took cocaine, you took vast amounts of marijuana. It was fun at the time, but then we all just sort of, it's not a very good idea anyway.
So you have a more stable life now?
No.